Hi, I'm Kelly Patrick, and this is the Resilient Grove. This is our gathering place for honest conversations about healing, resilience, and the courage it takes to grow through life's hardest seasons. Let's take a moment before we begin. I invite you all to join us. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. Make yourself comfortable, and let's get started. We are doing part 2. This is to follow up on the first one that we did about how you were removed from the church for teaching chair exercise. So now we're going to talk about the handouts that were given to your students after you were already gone, when they come to show up the next week for class. And a pastor printed out a handout, a little pamphlet of handouts to give to your students. So when I'm assuming that a student shared those with you?
Yes.
What was your initial reaction when you saw that?
Well, when I looked at the handouts, I thought, why do you have a script that you got off the internet? To me, if you are a pastor of a church, you should be able, just with remembering different Bible verses, because, I mean, they tend to come right to your mouth when you know the Bible very well. Why would you have to have certain Bible verses brought in by, like, the computer instead of just...
And you're referring to, he used AI.
Yeah, he used AI, right.
This. Yeah.
And when I read the Bible verses, they were just not really saying what he was saying to me. They were kind of covering, I want to say, just a little piece of it. It wasn't embodying the whole entire thing that he was saying, that yoga is evil and yoga cracks your soul open. There was nothing like that at all.
So basically he was taking a Bible verse and trying to make it fit into the narrative that he wanted.
Exactly. And you know what? That shoe just didn't fit for me at all. Zero. I couldn't understand why he would even use a verse like that.
Did he share it with you at all, or is this that he just gave to the students that were...
He just gave it to the students. He didn't have that made until I think he was ready to go in and speak with the students.
Do you think it felt like an attempt to educate them, or was it more of an attempt to control?
I think he was trying to do both, but I think there was more control than education, because he didn't have enough evidence that really would make me believe that there was something wrong with what I was doing. And he was just kind of grasping at straws after a certain point. And I think he found that out when he started mentioning that to the people that had attended, that they just could not find any correlation between the Bible verse.
People stood up to him about this?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. They were just, they were angry. They thought, you're really just grasping at straws here to make sure that, that your point was being taken, but nobody was really getting the point at all.
Do you know how he responded to that? Did anybody tell you?
He got angry, and then he kept pressing on, according to my one friend that was there, that this is how it is. This is how God sees these things.
But yet this was an AI handout.
Right, an AI handout.
That he had to ask AI for all the answers.
Right. To me, if you can't bring those up from your memory, then you don't really know.
Your own education.
Right,
yeah. So when you notice the very first question on the handout where the pastor asked AI, is it okay to participate in yoga as a Christian? What did that tell you about the church's mindset or this pastor's mindset?
Well, he was pretty firm about the fact that he thought things from yoga were demon-like. He said that if we say certain words, that they're going to take the emptiness of your mind or a crack in your soul, and it's going to replace that instead of what's in from the church. And to me, I feel if you go to church and you really believe in what they're saying, then there
will be no cracks.
Yeah, there won't be any cracks.
Right.
So what are you afraid of?
Right.
You're afraid.
So mind you, too, he's probably never taken a yoga class.
No.
Right.
No.
And you offered to him to take a class, and he refused.
Absolutely. Right.
So he's speaking
Twice,
from a place of ignorance because he doesn't know, number one. And number two, he has to ask AI for it.
But I think the pastors believe that they've gone to, all these schools and education, and that they can formulate these things that, they want us to believe, even though there's not evidence. I grew up in research. I'm evidence-based.
Yeah.
Show me some science, show me this, show me that. There was nothing. And there was nothing in the Bible that he shared that I thought was even worth sharing to anybody.
And clearly the other people agreed too.
Exactly.
And because they weren't doing what he said, that's why he got angry.
Right, yeah. They called him out.
Right. So why do you think a pastor would turn to AI to educate others on a practice that they personally never experienced?
Because they don't know.
Yeah.
He couldn't put it together without that, because I think he felt, after I told him that the people would be disappointed, that he had to gear himself up. And he geared himself up, I think, to a point where it was unbelievable to most people. He made it so factual in terms of what the Bible says. And people couldn't relate to that because there was no correlation. It was like kind of just pulling it out.
Because they had the experience of taking your classes for the last 3 years.
Right.
Right.
Nobody came up to me, including the people that went to church there, to tell me that I cracked their souls open and they don't want to attend a church anymore. Or they felt that, taking their thumb knuckles up to their third eye energy center was not helping them at all. It was making them feel less than important or less religious than they were before. I think when people have a religion, it's a personal religion. It's very hard to tell if that religion is strong or if it's weak. Certainly if it's weak and it happens to change a person's perspective, then whatever religion is being offered to them isn't vibing with them. And, I think we see that a lot in the Catholic faith, too, where people are just, your parents are Catholic, we're going to send you to Catholic school, we're going to let you, learn all this Catholic stuff, but it's not anything that's really relating to them at all.
So what does it say when a spiritual leader feels the need to assemble a whole packet instead of simply just asking these people, hey, how has this helped you? Have you felt it crack your soul wide open? Like, do you feel that?
I've been practicing yoga forever. I feel more spiritual.
Yeah, agreed.
And, and I think the rest of the folks, feel the same way. I think once you start moving your body, number one, and kind of learning how to breathe deeply, learning to relax your mind at the same time.
Takes you closer to God.
Yes, it gives you that sense of contentment. I feel at home on my yoga mat, and it's nothing that I think is scary at all. It's just, I go there, I feel relaxed, I move, I breathe, and I do different poses, and different types of breath work, and it just makes you feel good. There's nothing taking away from, any religious thoughts that I had. I believe in God. I think there's a God out there. I'm not quite sure where that God is because I'm so confused at this point. There's so many religions, and everybody thinks their religion is the one. Yeah.
So how did it feel to see your work, something that you have created for the last 3 years, grounded in healing and compassion, reduced to basically a debate about sin?
I knew what was going to happen after I had been, counseled by him, so it wasn't a shocking thing. But the thing that I hated the most, it was the fear-mongering, trying to make people feel bad. And nobody should feel bad about moving their body and breathing. And the fact that he had to just pick little parts of that he didn't like, maybe a Hindu word or
Word.
yeah, word.
One word.
Word. Or the fact that I used an energy center to bring my thumb knuckles up to. That to me is kind of narrow-minded. You know, there is all kinds of spiritual things out there that people go to. There's Reiki, there's breath work, there's meditation,
Sound healing.
Everybody can find a place where they feel good, where they're going to relax and just let their minds
And
relax.
it shouldn't be compared to a sin.
Exactly.
An immoral sin.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's plenty of that out there
Yeah.
that you can find. But to better the way you feel, to make your health better, to be in community with other people, what is wrong with that? I just,
So it goes back to, it sounds like it was more of a control mechanism that you believe what I say. This is what we say here. You do what we say.
Right.
And that's that.
And if you don't like it, you can just leave. And I was okay with that. I knew that wasn't the place for me to be after that. But, I just felt that the one thing I felt bad about was, having to, just bring, this community of people to a different place when it was hard enough to start it there. Yeah.
So some of the language that he used in that packet was deception, darkness, evil, sinful, demonic. For us who we've spent better part of over a decade helping people heal, to be compared with those words.
Yeah, and that was totally not the way I was going.
Yeah.
So for him to spin it like that.
Out of the blue. After years of teaching there.
Right.
Out of the blue, now suddenly it's dark and evil.
Right. Because one person didn't like a word. I mean, that is, to me, just not the way you solve a problem.
It's ironic that a mega church who has thousands and thousands of people that got worked up over one person saying something.
Right.
It just seems odd, to me at least. So, what do you think is lost when every breath, pose, or rest has to be justified with a Bible verse, which is what his handout was?
I think what is lost is just the ability to look at another perspective. And I think that's where a lot of churches fall short. They have a list of rules they want their people to follow. Whether it's coming every Sunday, sitting here, doing that, taking the Lord's Supper, whatever it is. I think that the people that run, especially evangelical churches, have a very strict guideline of what they want in the church. And they keep people in the church because I think they get a lot of followers that come in that don't have a lot of tight controls on their lives. And being in a church situation where you're told what to do can be very good for a lot of people. But if you have people that are there for the reason of just worshiping and wanting to do the activities, I think they fall short there. Not everything has to be Bible focused in a community church. He was telling me that, I could introduce Bible verses into my church, into my thing if I wanted to do. And that's not what I want to do. I want to give them something else that they could enjoy and, not have to worry about it being centered around church all the time.
I'm from a medical background, so scientifically, you have to move your body.
Right.
And you have to breathe.
Exactly.
There's just no way around that. So for his handout, to have to put a Bible verse next to how we breathe and move our bodies seemed a bit odd to me because we're human and that's what we're supposed to do as humans, to live, right? So how can you make breathing and moving something to be sinful if they're doing it with you or versus?
Well, it's really interesting that you say that, because in that church, they bring in the big giant TV and invite men, mostly men, in to watch the games, the football games.
In the church?
In the church. And
that's not sinful?
That's okay for them. You know, you can just, bump into people or on the field and just mess around and hurt people sometimes. And, there's a lot of things that go on at football games. You could be, people are drinking beer in the background and having a good old time. And, they're sitting in church watching that. And that's an okay thing. You can have women's latte, which, then whoever is the wife of the lead pastor comes in and does women's latte, and you can sit down and have 12 desserts at your table and just eat and eat and eat and sit there and laugh, and maybe some Bible verses go on, and it's okay to overconsume tons of desserts. That's okay. But it's not okay for me to move my people in the class and for them to communicate nicely with the next person and get to know people and be kind. And that's everything that was happening there. So I just find it just kind of interesting that...
Full of irony.
Right.
So why do you think they felt the need to... Do you think he felt pressure to have this handout ready to give to people that next week?
Oh, yeah.
Why couldn't he have just gone in there and said the truth? What happened?
Because I did tell him, I said, the people in there are going to be pretty disappointed that you're coming in and speaking. And I said, they're a group of seniors, very educated seniors, who will probably, I kind of prepared him for that. And truly, I don't think he even got this information. I probably think he had somebody get it for him.
And give it to him.
Probably said, I'm going to this thing and I want to be prepared because people may ask me questions and I want to be able to answer their questions.
But then he didn't. He got angry.
Yeah, he got angry. And the audience was angry too. So, yeah, I could see, there was a power struggle.
Sure.
Yeah, but they weren't going to let him win either.
Why do you think some church leaders are so afraid of yoga?
They're afraid of losing people to something else. If people aren't satisfied with where they're at, and I know people that have come and left that church. Several people, and
so when people leave, obviously it means they're losing money. Losing numbers.
I mean, it's a business. They all compare all those things.
It's like yoga teachers who get insecure about the number of students in their classes.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
The more people you have, the better you are, and that's not necessarily.
Pack a room of 50 students, and it looks like you're successful at whatever you do.
Exactly.
So it's really they're afraid of the unknown because they don't know anything about it.
Right.
And so they're just going to create a narrative what they think is right.
Right.
And then just feed that to the people hoping that they'll just believe it.
And it's the same thing. If you keep telling people the same thing over and over and over again, they will believe it.
Yep.
Lies upon lies upon lies upon lies.
And it becomes the truth in people's heads.
Right. Just if you don't, and this is the evangelical thing. If you do not believe, if you don't bring God into your heart and ask for salvation, you won't go to heaven. That's not the case in every church. You don't have to do that. You don't have to get into that little pool at the front of the thing and be totally immersed. You don't have to do any of those things in other churches, but that is the only way there that they feel, oh, hi, that you will be saved.
There was, before I started taking classes for Catholicism, And I wasn't taking classes to convert. I was taking classes to just educate myself. And Catholic churches offer these free classes. And I was talking to a patient, a client of mine that I had. They were both in their 90s, longtime Catholics. You know, what you said earlier, like their family was Catholic, long-term Irish Catholic family. And he says to me, before I start taking classes, I don't know anything about, you know, religion and Catholicism. He says, there's one thing you need to do as a Catholic, and there is to trust that it was spontaneous pregnancy, or whatever they call that. I forget what they call that. But that Mary got pregnant without having sex.
Yeah.
What is that called?
That's, she was,
I know, there's a word to it. But anyway, he said that you don't ask questions, you don't doubt it, you just believe it. And I remember thinking in my head, again, I'm from the medical field, I know that's just not possible, right? But that's what they do. They just blindly believe because that's what you're told to do.
I've been watching a lot of things on evangelical churches, just seeing why they do what they do, and about the Bible, and just the Bible that they believe is, you know, the word, the unwritten word, or the written word that you have to believe. No, don't do that. And sorry. And what I found out is, you know, because when I looked at the Bible, I thought, you know, these stories in here, Adam and Eve, Noah's Ark, the Virgin Mary getting pregnant and having Jesus, the whole entire thing. And the more I read it, the more people in history who have looked at the Bible say, those are simply parables. Yeah. And, you know, people go down to see that ark down in Kentucky that's, you know, a replica of the ark that Noah, you know, was putting all the animals and stuff on. And I just thought,
they believe it to be real.
They believe it to be real.
Because whatever church they go to has been telling the same story for over and over and over. Yeah. They tell the same story at home. And it's just that brainwashing. Yes. It really is.
And it is very cult-like. And I am so glad I love that.
So we were talking about this earlier. So when they, meaning churches, say that yoga empties the mind, we've talked about that. There's no possible way, scientifically, that can empty the mind.
Right.
So what do you think they're actually afraid of?
People learning new things. People finding something that works better for them personally. And it may not be replacing what they have in their church, but maybe it's a way of being able to breathe, to calm themselves down for anxiety. Maybe it's a way of just learning about yoga in general. Why is it good for you? Why is it good for your brain? Why is it good for Alzheimer's? Yeah, to prevent Alzheimer's.
So again, it goes back to if somebody starts having those questions, then they might start doubting what they've heard at church. Right. And then it goes back to losing numbers and losing money. And it's
It all comes down to, numbers.
So let's talk about that. Yoga does not empty the mind. Meditation doesn't empty the mind. Breathing doesn't empty the mind. Nothing empties the mind.
No.
Not even church.
No. You know, we wish we could empty our mind, but we can't.
Right.
We can't. There's some days where you just wish you could just take all those thoughts out of there. If we could do that, there'd be a lot, less anxious people in the world, a lot less depression.
But these churches are using that phrase that that yoga empties the mind, and nobody's questioning that.
Right.
They believe it, and then so they just turn their back on breathing and yoga and moving because, no, it'll empty my mind. But does anybody ever say, hey, can our minds ever be emptied? Has it ever been proven that our mind can be emptied? No.
The only time it doesn't even empty when you're dying.
No.
And that's the most interesting
Even when you're put to sleep in a surgery, your mind's not empty.
Right. So your brain's always, you don't want it to empty because most likely you're going to be dead at that point. And who knows? We might be still thinking at that point in time. Hopefully not, but...
So basically, the next question is, have you ever felt like stillness itself threatens certain religious structures? And yeah, because the stillness is where curiosity comes in, where you start to question your surroundings. And it seems like a lot of these religious institutions don't want that. They don't want you to ask questions. And if you do ask questions, ask them. They'll give you an answer, and you believe them.
Right.
What I think he was implying with his handout is that he wanted to just give this handout to everybody, and everybody was like, oh, I'm not allowed to do yoga because of this Bible verse. Oh, okay.
Right.
And that's not what happened.
Unfortunately, that audience of folks were a little bit smarter than he thought they were, and they,
But that goes to show how he has created his own, I don't know what to call it, pastoring, is that he expects people to just believe him.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't believe him, he gets angry.
Well, yeah, at a certain point in churches, pastors are appointed, and the higher the pastor, the more important we think that person is. They know more than anybody. They might not know as much as you know.
So in that type of megachurch, when there's 20 or more pastors, how do they rank themselves?
Well, the senior pastor is usually somebody that's been there for a while.
So it goes by seniority?
Yeah, it usually goes by seniority. But the interesting part is the pastor that they brought in for the pastor of this church that left to go into a bigger organization. They brought somebody else in to do the preaching. And I think what they do is they look for where the talent is. So if you're a good speaker and you know your background in the Bible, and you know, probably have some psychology training and things like that, that's who they'll bring in as the lead pastor. And some of these other pastors, they may be just pastors of certain groups of people. Like they might be the pastor of the Sunday school. They might be the children's pastor. There's so many, and they just kind of appoint them. This person in general been there the longest, so he has gotten the lead pastor role. But I never have, heard him preach. He has never preached, to a sermon that I've gone to, but he's always in the background. You'll see him at the nursing homes. You'll see him doing those type of things, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about, do you think it's possible to have spirituality and movement without attaching it to one religion?
And I think that you can have that, absolutely. I think movement and breathing is just something that we are born with. Little kids like to dance.
Yeah.
They twirl around.
They jump.
They jump.
They crawl. They move.
It makes them feel good.
Yeah.
They know the more that they move, the better they're going to feel. They breathe. They don't hold their breath, most likely, hopefully, and they learn to breathe. And they don't think about it. It just happens.
And there's no churching at that age.
There's no churching at that age. As we get older, I think we get less inclined to move because maybe we're embarrassed to move in front of people. Maybe we have...
Let's talk about that. I know that's separate from the religion, but and I have had people tell me, oh, I'm embarrassed to do that.
Exactly.
And I'm thinking in my head, embarrassed to move your body? Yes.
Right.
Why? Where did that come from, that you can't move your body or get in a certain pose in front of someone else?
They're scared they're going to do it wrong, I think. They think there's always a right and a wrong way, but sometimes people have to move in a way that their body can move with them. Yeah.
So it's more of a personal fear than, okay.
And then if you're in like a situation where people are moving really freely and it's easy for them to get there, then they might feel a little embarrassed. Why can't I do
it that way?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that all comes down to, whoever is teaching a class to say, you may look different than the other person now because you might not have the flexibility in your legs like another person does. But it comes with practice. And I think that's an important thing to note, that people sometimes are afraid to move. Sometimes you'll see people, they won't go up on a dance floor because they're afraid to dance. What if my dance looks different than somebody else's dance?
It's embarrassing, yeah.
Right. And just the freedom of just dancing the way you want to. I mean, everybody will dance the way they want to at home when there's nobody there.
Well, nobody watching, right?
Yeah, with nobody watching, yeah.
So let's talk about that religious freedom. So, especially now, there's freedom to go wherever you want. There's freedom to believe whatever you want.
Right.
And I think that threatening to these churches, businesses that have been around for a long time, because they're realizing that they're losing control over people.
The Catholic Church is one of them that really had to do some changing with what they did to attract other people to come in. They had to start relinquishing the fact that things were happening that were not good. And I think as soon as they started bringing things out and punishing people that did bad things, then people felt better coming back to the Catholic Church.
So basically all it's just is a business.
Yeah.
Trying to attract more customers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For the evangelical church, I think it's, let's provide classes upon classes, activities upon activities.
The music.
Let's make church your second home. So if we can bring you in large droves here, and you enjoy yourself as much as you did at home, because you have all these people here, you have all these places, we could all ski together, we could go to the car show outside in the parking lot.
We could drink coffee together, eat dessert together.
Right, we could have all the desserts together, exactly.
So you won't need to go anywhere else but here.
We can sit upstairs with a coffee in our hand as, you know, church
watch a
goes
football
on.
game.
Right, watch a football game. Oh yeah, play pickleball in the gym.
Get the heck out.
No, I know. I'm telling you, they have everything there. We'll bus you in, you know. We'll bus you in from places. You don't have to drive in and have to park. We'll pick you up here and bring you right to the door. Oh, yeah. I mean, they will go the nth degree to bring people into the church.
Wow. All right, so maybe the bigger question is this really even about yoga? No.
It's a business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a business like every other church, yeah.
It would be the same if you went in trying to preach Catholicism to the group, they would have kicked you out too.
Right, exactly.
So it's not yoga.
Right.
It's not moving your body. It's because you're not saying what they want you to say.
Exactly.
So again, it's losing authority over how people, which is so terrible, is that they are using God as a weapon to threaten
you.
Yes, to threaten you and scare you.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
If you don't believe in God, you're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how do they know?
There is no proof. There is no proof of
Do they know
hell.
somebody that's happened to, that they can, with authority say that you're going to go to hell if you don't come to church?
There's just, if people would just, go on the internet and look at what the Bible's all about, they would understand that it was written past the time when all this was happening. And it's just a summation from a group of men who wrote things. And one of the men, Paul, he wasn't a real good guy.
Oh, really?
No, he was not a good guy at all. And he wrote all kinds of stuff of how we need to, lead our lives.
It's fascinating to me. Every chunk of civilization has worshipped some form of higher deity.
Right.
And we're in the civilization that we worship Jesus. So we're just repeating these cycles over and over, the loop, right? We're just repeating all of this. I don't know, maybe each generation, each civilization gets smarter, but it doesn't seem to be happening very quickly.
No, and I think because we always seek for someone to tell us how to
Because it's easy.
be, yeah, instead of figuring it out ourselves. I mean, if you just look at just kindness, if you make that your thing, that you will treat everybody kind no matter how you were treated by them, then you know this can really change people. This can make you feel better. And to chastise people because of what they believe, how they live their lives, what they put in their lives is just being just judgmental.
Yeah.
And we're not here to be judgmental. We're here just to be kind people.
Connect with people, be kind to each other, help each other heal, help each other move through life.
Right. Treat the poor well.
Yeah.
Treat, people that don't have what you have, to be able to just smile instead of be, a crabby person. It's very simple, but we've made it into this huge, humongous thing of rules.
Yes, wars with each other.
Right.
With these groups of churches.
Right.
Everybody hates each other because, nope, they're not right, I'm right.
Right, yeah.
I had a patient who was mid-90s, and a lot of older people like to ask, do you believe in God? What's your religion? And so I would always get very nervous with those questions because I didn't really know how to answer them. And so he asked me one day, and it just so happens that I was right in the middle of doing those Catholic classes. And I was so excited. I was like, actually, yeah, I'm learning about it right now. I'm taking these Catholic classes. And he looks at me and he goes, oh, they're terrible. Don't go to those. Come to my church. And I was like thinking in my head, this is the very beginning. I was like, wait, what? Like, I didn't understand that there was competition within the framework of God. And he was adamant that Catholics were wrong. And that, I don't even know what church he went to. It was somewhere in Illyria. But his church was the right church. And so he told me, when you're done with all of that stuff that you're doing, he's like, come to my church and then you'll learn the right way. And so from then on, I was just like thinking, and then again, through the Catholic churches, they tell us, they in these classes that they teach you that the Catholics are right, everybody else is wrong. But then that's what megachurches are also teaching.
Oh, yeah.
We're right, Catholics are wrong.
Exactly.
So then, like you said, we have wars among humans because of what these churches are preaching to people.
Right. And it's happening today.
Yeah.
Every day there's something, between this group and that group.